Welcome to the Driven Moms Answering Adversity interview series, Stories of Success Through Setbacks from Mom Elevated. Together, we can shine a light on how normal challenges and struggles are, along with how we can overcome and rise above them. Today, we have Sarah to share her story with us. I'm excited to dive into this one. So, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind, would you like to give us a little brief overview about your story and you?
I would love to. Gosh, a story is such a big thing. It's who we are. So I'm trying to think, where do I want to start today? Well, I was raised in a home with a ton of love and also some emotional dysfunction because there was alcoholism present in our home. Had no idea it was that. I just thought it was partying and a good time. It was what was completely normal. And so it's such a miracle that in my early 20s, I fell in love with a man who was in recovery. He'd been sober 4 or 5 years when we met. And the chances, giving my family history with addiction, of me falling in love with someone in recovery was pretty minimal. And it was through Preston, who's my husband, we've been together for about 18 years,
Oh my
that I started to learn about the disease of addiction. And that was when I started looking back and thinking, oh, I think some of this might fit my own family history. And sure enough, that was true. And so, as a result of growing up in that home, there were just some things that I learned that are hallmarks of addiction. Things like, we're going to look good to everybody else, but we're going to maybe keep some secrets about what's happening on the inside. I also grew up traveling the world because of my dad's job. So I was born in America, raised in England, and also traveled extensively, which was one of the biggest gifts. Also, I used to ride horses and ski and just do all of these. I had a lot of privilege in terms of my access to try things. And so that's just a massive part of who I am because today, as a life coach, having done this work for 12 years professionally, curiosity is the foundation of what I'm doing. I'm getting curious about your story. I'm curious, why does this affect you this way? Can we talk about this? Let's talk about what you want more of. Even though I love curiosity, why questions are usually my least favorite because I find, especially as someone who overthinks and has a lot going on up here. And of course, I attract those kinds of clients because that's who I am. That why can spin us in circles quite a lot.
Yeah.
And so I tend to stay away from those as a coach, which is just a side note. But I think that meeting my now husband, it opened me up to what had been happening in my family of origin, which helped me make sense of my own discomfort. I was quite ballsy and confident on the outside and had done all of these fun things. Like I'd taken myself off to South America and lived there for a year. I'd moved to the States with a one-way ticket, $100 and a couple of bags, right? Like it would be sort of the Instagram life before Instagram was available. And as we know, there's so much more behind the surface. So inwardly, I never felt satisfied, right? I struggled to make friends and keep friends because I also was bullied when I was about 11, and that had a real impact on me. I remember in Preston was the first real relationship I had because I was always scared to be that vulnerable and intimate with somebody. And I used to drink a lot, never to the point where I was in a place of addiction, but I just did that one because it was normal, but also because it numbed some of those feelings. It gave me permission to be more of who I was that I couldn't be during the day. Um, and so I would in this new relationship, and I would want him to do something or say something just the right way, and then he would do it, and then it wasn't enough, and I would start the fight again. And just so representative of the turmoil of not having a rooted, grounded sense of self. And so anyway, that opened me up to join Al-Anon family groups, which is a 12-step program for people who've been affected by the disease of alcoholism and addiction. And so I started doing some of my own work, right? Like looking at myself, realizing, oh shoot, I can't blame you anymore. This begins with me. And then also because professionally, I had just enough chutzpah to make a bunch of decisions to try things professionally out of passion. So I was an editor for a newspaper. I worked in lingerie because I thought there was a real niche in the market for great bras. And then doing all of that and exploring things that I was genuinely interested in, I read an article about life coaching, and it found me because as soon as I started reading it, I went, oh my God, I didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could make a living doing it. And this is the thing. Because when I was about 14 at a parent teacher night, what's your kid going to do when they're older? I remember saying I'd love to get paid to have intimate conversations.
Oh,
But I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I knew I didn't want to be a counselor. I knew I didn't want to be a psychologist. I just didn't know what the alternative was. And so that was a light bulb moment for me and put me on the path of coaching. And I would say what feels most true in this moment is, my life is about finding the courage to align with who I really am in any given moment, right? Not trying to knock myself or bend myself, even just a pinch to fit with who I think you want me to be or to make myself belong. It's truly to find the audacity to love who I am. And I love that journey. And I love hearing the stories of other people in my coaching work to support them to do the same.
I think that's beautiful. Oh man, there were so many gems in there that I would love to touch on, but the main one, I love that you use the word audacity in that manner because it's so often that we hear it in such a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Oh, the audacity, but it's really great to hear it as having the audacity to be yourself and be fully you, and that's a beautiful mindset shift, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for saying it. Sometimes I forget that it has a negative connotation because I'm so used to using it positively for good. And it's a good reminder. It feels good to hear you say it and to hear me say
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Thank you for that. So in that term then, what do you think along that path? That's a long journey. I also have my father was an alcoholic, and so I have that in my past as well. And it definitely has like you have to dive into that at some point in time. Otherwise, it's like there's so many things that I think trickle from it that you don't realize that when you start to finally dig and see that, you're like, "Oh, okay. All right. Well, here we are." But in that scheme, and then having met your husband who sounds like a wonderful human being, what adversity along that do you think is the biggest that you had to answer in addressing all of that while you were discovering who you are, that you could commit, that you could be this, and that you found this great position that you're like, this is what I want to do. What was the biggest adversity along that journey, and how did you answer that?
I don't think the adversity is over, meaning it wasn't a moment in time. For me, it's layers of adversity getting revealed. And I would say that I've really struggled to feel like I'm enough, right? That's shown up in my marriage, where even to this day, some moments I will find myself saying, why do I have to scream to feel like I'm heard? And the truth is, I don't have to scream. And I don't mean literally scream, although I've certainly done that too. Um, But I'll just go into this place where when things feel hard, my brain is really good at making that mean something, which
Mm.
usually it doesn't even need to mean anything. It can just be hard. So I start making meaning, which is a very human thing to do. And I'll go a step further and I'll make it mean that there's something wrong with me. Right. So in my marriage, I can catch myself today going, I don't have to scream or say this 5 times or yell or cry to be heard,
Yeah,
right? I can just say what I want to say. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't get it, it doesn't mean anything about me.
yeah,
The same pattern has shown up in business. I realized, oh my gosh, I want to be a coach. I went and got trained as a coach. And then I had this, oh, I guess if I'm going to want to work as a coach, I'm really going to have to start my own business because you don't really just go out and get a job as a coach. And if you do, you usually need a certain level of experience anyway to be effective inside of that organization. So I stumbled into business ownership. I've stumbled and stayed, thankfully. And, I'll make up stories about, well, why haven't more people bought a ticket? Or if I'm launching my own event, is anyone going to come? And all of that, like frantic, not enough, worried energy. I'm doing it wrong. I don't know how to market well enough. It just can be so insidious, which is why I'm so grateful that I have my own coach. I've had so many different coaches over the years for different reasons. I have a sponsor inside of my 12-step program, and I have some really trusted friends who get the journey, who are on the journey themselves, who have earned the right to give me feedback because they're also trying similar hard things, to help me get out of my own way. It's shown up in motherhood too, where I think my child is acting out. And the reason I say he's acting out is because he's doing it to me, right? Like there's just this thread of victimhood, of self-pity that, oh, just feels so warm and delicious and comfortable. And it's such a freaking liar, because it's not. It's just like this stew of pain and chaos. And I wrote this in my blog last night. I said something like, the problem isn't usually the problem. The problem is the way I'm seeing the situation and what I'm making of it. And so, how can I develop better coping mechanisms? So, I would say that thread of adversity still exists today. There are contexts where I'm able to catch myself so much quicker and get back into alignment with who I know I really am. And there are times where I'm still just in it
yeah.
and figuring it out.
I love that. And I think it's really important to note you've been in marriage, you said almost 18 years, right? And you've been in business 12 years and doing this, and that still comes up. Like, that's really important, I think, for others to note who are starting. It feels harder when you're starting because, to me anyway, in my opinion, it feels harder when you're first starting because you haven't had those come up yet. So as you work through them and you come up against another and another, like you said, the layers, as those layers come up, you start to sort of begin to recognize the signs, or you have people around you. You've built this system to help you then recognize that, get out of that, and maybe not be in it as long or have it be quite a as big of a hurdle because you've been through that before and you're building those tools to help you through that. But I think that's really important to note that even, 20 years down the line, 10 years down, you're still going to be facing different challenges and different adversities. And it's just about how you approach them and how you can then get yourself out of it quicker. Um,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's
My,
beautiful.
my business coach tells me, like when you're sort of scaling your business, right? Like getting from 10,000 a month to consistent 20 to $30,000 months is much harder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? Right? Like I've sort of hit this marker. I thought then it would just be like more of the same, right? So I'm in this season of, oh, this is only going to get more challenging. Oh, okay. I don't know for me if it's easier at the beginning. I think I don't know if it's easier or harder. I'm not even sure that matters. I just know it's different. And sometimes I can even be harder on myself because I feel like, oh, shouldn't I know better? Don't I know better than this? And I'm still doing it. I can have a hard time picking up the phone and kind of admitting to my sponsor or my coach that I'm in a shitstorm again, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my God, I know we've talked about this 2,300 times, but I'm still here, and of course it's always a little bit further along. But yeah, it's just life is so humbling and we're so human and it's just such an interesting wild ride. I'm really practicing more than ever just compassion and grace and curiosity for myself. I didn't even realize until really the beginning of this year how hard I can be on myself. I thought and have done a lot of work around that, and there's still all of this room to just go, oh, silly me, there I go again, right? And
Yeah.
that's not my natural inclination,
Yeah.
as much as I'd love it to be yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack. I love that. I think that's great. What do you think then that it is about entrepreneurs especially that makes us continue on when times get tough, instead of just saying, you know what, we're just gonna go back to the 9 to 5 grind. It's fine. We know what to expect. What do you think it is that's like, no, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna learn. We're gonna keep going through the challenges and
I can answer that for me. I'm sure it may be different for some of us. I I just think it's unclear about my mission. I'm clear about my mission. I'm values aligned with that mission. I'm very clear that as hard as this can be on any given day, I know myself. I know that I'm better wired for this than I am working for somebody else. And I have to live in reality, not fantasy, right? The grass isn't greener. So doing the work on myself day in, day out when those hard moments hit, to know that yeah, this is hard. I can tolerate discomfort. And I'm clear about the work I'm committed to doing, just makes it all the easier to stick with. I remember years ago, my husband went through a Tony Robbins coach training program. And in there was a section on relationships. And Tony talked about, if you're not familiar with Tony Robbins, he's considered almost the godfather in the life coaching industry. He's really incredible. He talked about the back door being closed in his marriage, right? The back door's closed. There's no escape route. We're in this. We're committed to each other. I don't think we anyway, I just loved that. I think there are some caveats there potentially, if it's a hurtful, abusive
right.
relationship. But if it's a kind, loving relationship and you're just having some difficulties, which all marriages do, the back door is closed. And I feel like that, especially in these latter years about my business, the back door's closed. Like that doesn't work for me. I'm not trying to get out of this. I am very clear that what's making me uncomfortable is here for me. And that's what entrepreneurship is about. It's not about, earning this award, making this amount of money. It's the process of it. And I'm committed to that.
I think that's wonderful. I'm gonna have to write that down. The back door is closed. I think that's great. And not only because it's a visual as well as such a powerful statement, but it's a great visual of saying, you know what? No, this is it. I'm here. So for those who I have recently discovered that many of my friends do not have the visual capacity that I do. Like I can envision things very clearly. Whereas some people, see words, some people see blank, like if you ask them to envision an apple or something. So I can visibly see that door closed, and I'm like, "Yeah, I love that. I think that's great." Instead of it feeling like a trap, like you said, there's no it's not there's just no escape route. You're committed to this one thing, and I think that's really powerful. In that same sense then, what overall takeaway or lesson do you think that other mompreneurs could use specifically from your experience?
Oh my God. Okay, this is really on my heart as soon as you started asking me the question. And there's no prep, guys, on these questions beforehand. So this is truly like a little let's go moment. So I've coached women for 12 years, all levels of an organization, all across the world. And the one thing that women struggle with the most, in my experience, is trying to earn the approval of others,
Mm,
right? We're so worried about, oh my God, what will they think? You know, did I say the right thing? Are they taking me seriously? Oh my God, is this outfit good? I don't know. And we sort of unintentionally and unconsciously give away our power. We just give it away. And we don't even know that we're doing it. And this is really a form of perfectionism, right? Perfectionism isn't being super organized. It isn't dotting our I's and crossing our T's. That's how our perfectionism might show up. But perfectionism at its core is literally what I just said. It's about trying to earn somebody else's approval. I'm going to people please and dance in circles to make sure you like me. And I'm going to totally forget that the most important opinion about me is my own,
yeah.
right? So if we think, a therapist actually said this to me years ago, if we think that what will they think are the four most devastating words in the English language, because they totally take us outside of ourselves, which is all we're here to learn how to be. The antidote to that is, what do I think? Right? What do I think about how I feel and look in this outfit? What do I think about how my bum sits in these trousers? Right? What do I think about my opinion on this project that we're managing and how that can impact the team? Right?
Yeah.
What do I think about the dreams that I have? I think that's the question that we can just start to practice asking ourselves. No pressure on the answers. We're not trying to problem solve or come up with solutions. We're just deploying curiosity.
Yeah.
And the pushback I get is, well, if I knew what I thought, I'd already know what to do next. And I say, we have to practice getting still, right? On a consistent basis.
Yeah.
This is why I talk about having some kind of reflection practice, whether it's meditation, running, painting, breath work, journaling, dancing, some set of activities that we're engaged in constantly, not that just feel good, although that's an important ingredient, but that actually quiet our mind, that
Yeah.
help us get in touch with this wisdom that we have in here. Because when we have just enough space to get in touch with that on a consistent basis, we're going to find some answers to, what do I think?
Oh,
And even if the answer is, I don't know yet, great, that's an answer. It means we don't have to spend time perseverating, overthinking. We can just go, oh, don't yet know. So I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to move through my day. I'm going to do what's in front of me. And I'm going to trust, because I'm in the process of connecting with myself, that an answer is going to reveal itself.
I love that.
Right.
I
So just think that combination, it's the one tattoo I have. What do I think? Is a beautiful way to start prioritizing ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. What do I think? I think that's so great. I think that's so great. But it's so powerful because not only are we taught to be so aware of how you're affecting others and things like that. But I think also just as women, we are very observant. We are very perceptive. So like body language even is very, we're in tune with it. So we notice it, I think, a little bit more sometimes. So I think that that is really important to continue saying, okay, I do see this, but what do I think? Just to take yourself out of that um, is powerful. That is really impactful. I love that statement. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Can be two things too, which is, oh, I see that, and what
Mm,
do I think? Because the but almost is like, oh, it kind of counteracts. Oh, I don't know. Am
sure.
I at a deficit? Can I, right? Do I, oh, I don't know.
Yes. Well, and
And
it,
I think,
it tends to negate the first statement. You're correct. Yep. That is a very big semantics thing. When you say but, it
yeah.
usually counteracts whatever you said initially. So that's yes. And that is
And
very
in my poster here for my book, Full of Herself, there's a chapter in there and it's called The Power of And. That's why I'm so clued into it because I'm practicing it
oh, I love
constantly myself. And I love it because it's not just, oh, you just use and instead of but. It truly expands our range for what we can feel and observe. Two things can be true rather than edging ourselves off into these corners and thinking in black and white. And it's actually the chapter that people have given the most feedback about, saying, oh my God, I love this. And I'm seeing everywhere how I use but. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
when you start to pay attention to what you are saying and how you are saying it, it is crazy. I started to somebody mentioned that when you use the word help, I help you, that means that people tend to associate it with like free. You're helping me for free. You're helping me out of the kindness of your heart. So instead of saying that as a business owner, you should say things like facilitate, support, like I am guiding you, I'm supporting you through this, I'm facilitating this for you. Just language is fascinating and how we associate it with certain things. So yeah, thank you for that. I'm gonna have to look into your book. What, on that note, then, is the best way for others to find you if they would like to work with you, learn more about you, be in your space, get your book, all of those things?
Yeah, you can go to, so my name is Sarah Moore. My website is Moore, just like my last name, soulsessions.com, moresoulsessions.com. We have the books on there, which is linked on Amazon. You can buy a copy wherever you are in the world. We also have an amazing Full of Herself blog where I'm telling stories of what it means to feel full of myself, what my clients are sharing, obviously the way that I can do that, retaining their confidentiality, the ways we're all falling way short, and tools to help us on that journey. So that's a really great free resource. And then the bulk of my work, aside from writing and speaking, is one-on-one work with clients. And I offer a free coaching session as a way to give tremendous value to help you work through some of the overwhelm and pressure that you're putting on yourself, and walk away with a couple of strategies to feel lighter and know what's actually worth your focus. So everything else can just kind of go by the wayside. And I just think that's a tremendous way to test chemistry, explore some next steps, and also just get some real value in real time. And that's something that you can sign up for, the free Full of Herself session, also on the website too.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'll have the links obviously in the description below, but just in case people are listening, they can still find you. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah, and sharing your story, little tidbits. I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg, but I very much appreciate it. And I know others do as well. As I like to say, your story is inspirational and your willingness to be open about it is very much appreciated and needed in this space, especially today, I feel. So thank you again for joining us. I appreciate your time.
Thank
And
you. This is
yes, it's been so fun. And like you said, it is off the cuff. I don't prepare you guys. I just ask the questions, and I think it's so much fun to see how you respond to that. You're wonderful, by the way. So thank you. For those of you out there facing your own adversity, know that you're not alone. That's why we're doing this, so that you have this as a resource. When you need an extra hand or mind for brainstorming during your mompreneur journey, we would love to work with you as well through the Mom Elevated Society. You'll find monthly check ins for goal setting and assessing, and so much more for both your business and your mom life. We now have the Get Yourself Grace program that's combined in the society. Super excited to offer that in there. It's just a quarterly reflection point on goals, relationships, actions, connections, and expectations. And until next time, keep shooting for the stars.